Deshaun Watson is throwing interceptions. He's throwing interceptions. This is courtesy of ESPN Cleveland. Denzel Ward, the newly paid man, picking him off. That was behind him. That was behind him, Deshaun. You threw that ball behind him. You got picked off. Look, you supposed to have that ball outside. You left the ball hanging on the inside and you got picked off. All right, you see it. You see it with your own two eyes. Deshaun Watson.
Day one of Cleveland Browns training camp, and Deshaun Watson drops back, fires a pass, and Denzel Ward walks away with the football like he just found a $100 bill on the sidewalk. The ball was behind the receiver. It was not even close. Watson left it hanging on the inside, and the highest paid cornerback on the roster made him pay for it right there in front of every coach, every camera, and every fan lined up against that fence in Berea, Ohio. And while Watson is watching Denzel Ward jog away with his interception, guess who is on the other side of that same practice field completing passes and connecting with Denzel Boston like they have been running routes together for years? Shedeur Sanders, the rookie, the 5th round pick, the guy half the internet said was not ready. Day one, same field, same coaching staff watching, and 2 quarterbacks going in completely opposite directions. If you are new here, welcome to Gridiron Ground, and I need you to drop a football emoji in the comments right now if you think Shedeur Sanders is taking that starting job before the first preseason game even kicks off. Because what happened on that practice field is not just a bad day for Watson. This might be the beginning of the end. And what Todd Monken said at the podium afterward is going to make your jaw hit the floor.
Before going further, if you're enjoying this video, don't forget to smash that subscribe button. It really helps us keep bringing you the content you love. Share this video with your friends so they don't miss out on all the drama and excitement.
Well, again, I think I said it in the spring, is that everybody on the roster competes. I mean, you're in the NFL. I mean, equal reps doesn't mean you're not going to compete. Obviously, you don't have as many opportunities. You got to take advantage of the opportunities that you get. But you never know how it's going to go at any position. Minor injuries are a part of training camp. So guys go down, their shoulder's a little sore, and Dylan comes in, someone comes in and plays well, or another position. Again, we have to divide the reps up according to the depth chart. In a perfect world in camp, me personally, I would prefer that 1s get 50%, the 2s get 33%, and the 3s get 17%, and somewhere the other guys got to fill in. Can you always count on that? No. And so the more those guys...
Let me paint this picture for you because the details matter here. This was not some fluky tipped ball at the line of scrimmage. This was not a receiver running the wrong route and leaving Watson hanging. This was a fundamental misread, a ball thrown to a spot where no receiver was standing, and Denzel Ward did not even have to make an athletic play to get it. He just caught it, like a receiver running a route. Watson's own pass found the defense before it found his teammate, and that is the kind of mistake that sticks in a coaching staff's memory no matter how many good throws you make afterward. And this was not the middle of training camp where guys are tired and sloppy and going through the motions. This was day one, the very first practice, the moment when every quarterback in that building is supposed to come out sharp, locked in, and ready to prove something. Watson came out and immediately gave the defense a takeaway. Now I want to be fair about this because context always matters. One interception in training camp does not end a career. Guys throw picks in practice. It happens to the best quarterbacks in the history of this game. But here is what separates this from a normal training camp interception. The entire football world is watching this specific quarterback competition under a microscope. Every single rep Watson takes is being measured against every single rep Shedeur Sanders takes. And on the very first day of that measurement, Watson's biggest highlight was a turnover. Meanwhile, on the exact same field, during the exact same practice, Shedeur Sanders was doing the opposite. He was connecting with Denzel Boston. He was moving the ball. He was making the kind of clean, decisive throws that you want to see from a young quarterback who is trying to prove he belongs. There was no hesitation, no panic, no rookie jitters. He looked like a guy who had been waiting for this moment his entire life and was not about to waste it. And that contrast is the entire story of day one. Two quarterbacks, two completely different performances, and an entire coaching staff standing there watching every single throw. If you are someone who has been paying attention to this competition all offseason, you already knew this was coming. Shedeur Sanders walked into that building with something to prove, and Watson walked in with something to protect. And on day one, the guy with something to prove looked like the better quarterback on that field. I'm not saying this to be dramatic. I am saying it because the tape does not lie and the coaches have eyes. One quarterback made plays, the other one made a mistake. And in a competition this tight, those moments add up faster than most people realize. The pressure on Watson right now is real. This is not the same Cleveland situation where he could walk in and assume the job was his because of the contract on his back. The front office brought Shadur in for a reason. They drafted him for a reason. And day one just showed everybody in that building exactly what that reason looks like on a football field. But what happened at the podium afterward might be even bigger than what happened on the field. And that is where this story takes a turn that nobody in Watson's camp wanted to hear. Todd Monken walked up to the podium after that first practice and said something that should have every single person following this competition sitting up straight. A reporter asked him about the timeline for naming a starting quarterback, and Monken looked directly into the cameras and said, and I am quoting this man word for word, "I am not going to decide who the starter is. They decide by their play. Their play decides who the starter is." Let that sink in for a second. The head coach of the Cleveland Browns just told you on the record, in front of every reporter in that building, that the contract does not matter. The history does not matter. The investment does not matter. The only thing that matters is what happens on that practice field. And then he went further. He said he has no preconceived notions about how any of these quarterbacks have played in the past or how they are going to play going forward.
Before going further, if you're enjoying this video, don't forget to smash that subscribe button. It really helps us keep bringing you the content you love. Share this video with your friends so they don't miss out on all the drama and excitement.
He said the only thing he can do is judge with his own two eyes. Now think about what that means for Deshaun Watson. The entire foundation of Watson's case for the starting job has been built on two things: the contract and the fact that he was here first. That is it. Those are the only two pillars holding up the argument that Watson should be the starter, and Monken just kicked both of them out from under him in a single press conference. Because if the play decides, and the play on day one showed Watson throwing picks while Shadur made completions, then the play is already pointing in one direction. And Monken is not some career assistant who is going to bow down to front office pressure and play the political game. This is his first head coaching job. This is the opportunity he has been grinding toward his entire career. He flat out called it a dream come true. A man living his dream is not about to sabotage it by handing a starting job to a quarterback who is not earning it on the field. He has every single reason in the world to put the best player out there regardless of salary, regardless of draft position, regardless of who the front office thought was going to be the guy when they signed that massive contract. Monken also said something else that flew under the radar but matters more than people think. He said the team has shored up some things up front and added weapons on the perimeter. That is a direct reference to the improvements Cleveland made on the offensive line and at the receiver position this offseason. And that matters for Shadur because one of the biggest knocks on him coming out of the draft was the question of whether he could perform behind a shaky supporting cast. Monken just told you the supporting cast is better now. The excuses are gone. The tools are in place. And the head coach is standing at the podium telling you the best player is going to win the job. If you are in Shedur's corner right now, everything Monken said should have you feeling more confident than ever. And if you are in Watson's corner, you should be very, very nervous about what comes next. Now here is where Monken gave away the entire playbook for how this competition ends, and I do not think enough people are talking about this part. A reporter asked him whether we would start to see one quarterback trending toward more first-team reps as camp progresses, and Monken did not dodge it. He did not give some generic coach-speak answer about taking it one day at a time. He laid out the exact formula. He said in a perfect world, the ones get 50% of the reps, the twos get 33%, and the threes get 17%. And then he said the key line. He said as camp goes on and you start to see less rotation, if you start to see individual players at every position getting more reps with the ones, that is a pretty good sign they are the one. He literally handed you the scoreboard. He told you exactly what to watch for. He told you the signal that tells everyone the competition is over. And right now, Watson and Shadur are alternating with the first team. That is what Monken confirmed. They are splitting the ones reps the same way they did through OTAs and minicamp. But Monken also said it is possible for that split to shift, and he said the players decide when it shifts based on their performance. This is where things get really interesting for anyone at Gridiron Ground who has been following this story from the beginning. And if you are not subscribed yet, now is the time to fix that, because this competition is going to move fast and you do not want to miss a single update. Here is the reality of the situation. Every single practice from this point forward is a referendum on who should be the starting quarterback. Every clean throw Shadur makes pushes him closer to a bigger share of first-team reps. Every interception Watson throws pulls him further away from the job he thinks is still his. The clock is ticking, and it is ticking loud. Monken is watching with a formula in his head. 50% for the ones, 33 for the twos, 17 for the threes. And the moment one quarterback starts pulling ahead in that rep distribution, the entire league is going to know the decision has been made. Think about what that means in practical terms. If Shadur keeps performing the way he performed on day one, and Watson keeps making the kind of mistakes he made on day one, how long before we walk out to practice and see Shadur taking the majority of first-team reps? How many more days of Watson throwing behind receivers does it take before Monken starts shifting the balance? Because Monken just told you it is coming. He did not say if it happens. He said when you start to see less rotation. When, not if. That is not a man who plans on splitting reps evenly all the way through camp. That is a man who is waiting for one quarterback to separate himself. And based on day one, Shedeur Sanders is already starting to create that separation. The formula is in place. The head coach laid it out in front of the entire world. And now every single rep is a data point in a competition that already has a clear frontrunner. And what happened in the stands during all of this added a whole new layer to this story that nobody saw coming. While Shadur was on that field making plays and Watson was throwing the ball into the wrong jersey, there was a figure sitting in the top row of the bleachers at Berea, Ohio, doing something that might honestly be the most surprising thing that happened all week. Deshaun Sanders was quiet. Let me say that again for the people who know this man's history. Deshaun Primetime Sanders, the loudest, most electric, most camera-ready personality in the history of professional football, showed up to his son's NFL training camp and did not say a single word to the media. Not one interview, not one soundbite, not one moment where he stepped in front of a camera and made the day about himself. A Browns beat reporter on the ground noted that Deshaun politely declined every interview request on site. He told anyone who asked that he was just there to watch. That is it. Just a father in the bleachers watching his son go to work. And I need you to understand how significant that is. This is a man who built an empire on being the center of attention. A man who could walk into any room in any city in America and immediately become the most important person in it. A man who played both ways in the NFL, ran back punts, hit home runs in Major League Baseball, and did all of it while telling you he was going to do it before he did it. That version of Deshaun Sanders would have walked onto that practice field, grabbed a microphone, and given a 20-minute press conference about his son's future in the league. But this version of Deshaun, the 2026 version, the version that has been through a serious health scare this offseason, the version that watched both of his sons grind their way onto NFL rosters. This version sat in the top row and just watched. That is not just restraint. That is growth. That is a father who understands the difference between showing up for his kid and showing up his kid. And what makes this even more interesting is what happened between practices. Dayan did not just sit in the stands the entire time. Between the morning walkthrough and the afternoon practice, he sat down privately with head coach Todd Monken and general manager Andrew Berea. That meeting is bigger than people are giving it credit for. You do not invite a college head coach into a private conversation with your GM and your head coach unless there is genuine respect flowing in both directions.
Before going further, if you're enjoying this video, don't forget to smash that subscribe button. It really helps us keep bringing you the content you love. Share this video with your friends so they don't miss out on all the drama and excitement.
Monken reportedly walked Dayan through his own coaching journey. They discussed the name, image, and likeness landscape that has reshaped college football. And Monken even told Dayan how close Shadur came to landing with the Baltimore Ravens on draft night before Cleveland grabbed him in the 5th round. Imagine that conversation. A Hall of Famer sitting across from a first-year NFL head coach, talking about the young quarterback who connects them both, while that same quarterback is outside on the field proving he belongs. And here is the part that adds even more depth to this whole visit. Last year, Shadur told Dayan not to come. According to reports, Shadur asked his father to stay home during his first NFL training camp. He did not want the extra eyes, the extra pressure, the extra cameras that follow Coach Prime everywhere he goes. He was a rookie trying to find his footing, and he needed space to do it on his own terms. But this year, the dynamic completely shifted. This year, Shadur welcomed his father with open arms. The red carpet was rolled out all the way to the line of scrimmage, and that tells you everything about where Shedur's confidence is right now. A young man who once needed distance from his father's shadow is now comfortable enough in his own skin to let prime time walk into his building and sit in the front row of his competition. That is not a quarterback who is nervous about losing his job. That is a quarterback who knows exactly what he is about to do. But the real obstacle standing between Shadur and that starting job is not about talent or performance. It is about money, and a lot of it. Let me talk about the elephant in the room that everybody keeps dancing around because it is the single biggest factor working against Shedeur Sanders in this competition, and it has absolutely nothing to do with football. Deshaun Watson is playing on one of the most expensive contracts in the history of the National Football League. When Cleveland brought Watson in, they did not just sign a quarterback. They made a financial commitment that reshaped how the entire league thinks about guaranteed money at the position. That contract was a statement. It was the Browns' front office telling the football world that they believed Watson was the franchise, the future, the guy who was going to end decades of quarterback misery in Cleveland once and for all. And when you commit that kind of money to a player, there is an organizational gravity that pulls everything in his direction. The front office has an incentive to keep running it back with him because benching Watson is not just a football decision. It is an admission that one of the biggest financial investments in franchise history was a mistake. And nobody in any front office anywhere in professional sports wants to be the person who has to stand up and say we got it wrong. That is career-threatening territory for the people who made that call. But here is the thing about sunk cost, and I need everybody to really hear this. Sunk cost only wins the argument when both players are performing at a similar level and you need a tiebreaker to make the decision. When both guys are close, you lean toward the investment. You lean toward the experience. You lean toward the resume. That is fair, and that is how the business works. But when one quarterback is clearly outperforming the other on the practice field, sunk cost stops being a valid argument and starts being an excuse. And right now, every single practice report, every insider note, every camp video coming out of Berea is pointing in the same direction, and it is not pointing toward the guy making the bigger paycheck. Watson is splitting reps with a rookie and throwing interceptions on day one. Shadur is splitting reps with a veteran and making completions on day one. At what point does performance override the balance sheet? At what point does the front office look at what is happening on that field and admit to themselves that the best path forward for this franchise might be the one that costs them less money and produces better football? Because the fans have already done that math. The national media has already done that math. And based on what Todd Monken said at that podium, the coaching staff is not far behind. Cleveland has a long and painful history of finding creative ways to complicate the obvious answer at the quarterback position. They did it with Baker Mayfield. They did it with every quarterback who came before him. And every single time, the delay, the indecision, the refusal to trust what the field was telling them cost this franchise years of progress. This is the moment where the Browns either learn from that history or repeat it. And if they let a contract override what their own eyes are showing them on that practice field, they deserve every bit of frustration that comes their way from a fan base that has been waiting a lifetime for someone to just make the obvious call. But Watson is not the only quarterback standing between Shadur and the starting job. And what is happening in the rest of that quarterback room tells you even more about how special this moment really is. People keep framing this as a two-man race between Watson and Shadur, but the reality inside that Cleveland quarterback room is even more complicated than that. Because Shadur is not just going up against one veteran trying to hold on to his job. He is competing against an entire room full of quarterbacks who each walked into that building with their own argument for playing time. Dillon Gabriel came into Cleveland with his own college resume, his own highlight tape, and his own group of believers who thought he could be the guy who sneaks past both Watson and Shadur, while everyone else is focused on the headline names. Gabriel transferred through multiple programs, put up numbers everywhere he went, and carries the kind of confidence that does not back down just because the depth chart says he is behind two bigger names. Then you have Kenny Pickett sitting in that same room. A former first-round draft pick. A guy who was supposed to be the franchise quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers before things fell apart. Pickett is not some random camp body filling out the roster. He is a talented quarterback with real NFL experience who is trying to resurrect his career and prove that the version of him that went in the first round still exists somewhere inside that arm. So when I tell you that Shedeur Sanders is separating himself, I need you to understand the full weight of what that means. He is not just outplaying one struggling veteran. He is rising above an entire room of competitors who each have legitimate credentials and legitimate reasons to believe they deserve a shot. That is not a fluke. That is not a good day. That is a quarterback doing exactly what elite competitors do, which is walk into a room full of talented people and make it clear that the conversation starts and ends with him. And this goes back to something that does not get enough credit in this entire conversation. The preparation that Shadur got at Colorado under his father's coaching staff was not normal college quarterback development.
Before going further, if you're enjoying this video, don't forget to smash that subscribe button. It really helps us keep bringing you the content you love. Share this video with your friends so they don't miss out on all the drama and excitement.
Most college quarterbacks walk into the NFL and face a massive adjustment period because they have never operated in a system that resembles anything close to a professional offense. Shadur ran a pro-style, high-volume passing attack at Colorado. He faced real pressure on national television every single week. He dealt with cameras following his every move, media dissecting his every throw, and an entire country watching to see whether Coach Prime's program was legitimate or just a circus. That is basically a live fire simulation of exactly what he is dealing with right now in Cleveland, just with a different logo on the helmet. Whatever you want to say about Coach Prime as a program builder, and I know there are people out there with opinions on both sides of that debate, you cannot argue with the product he sent to the NFL. Shedeur Sanders walked into that Browns facility with the kind of mental toughness and system familiarity that most rookies do not develop until their second or third year in the league. He set school records. He set Big 12 records. He threw for numbers that would make most college quarterbacks jealous. And now, he is translating all of that production to the professional level on the very first day of his second training camp. The room is full of competition. The pressure is enormous. And Shedeur Sanders is handling all of it like a veteran who has been doing this for a decade. That alone should tell you everything about where this competition is headed. And the people outside that building are already making their voices heard louder than anyone inside it expected. Here is something that should terrify the Cleveland Browns front office if they are even thinking about handing Watson the starting job based on anything other than on-field performance. The fans have already made their choice, and it is not even close. During training camp, young fans lined up against the fence at Berea were asked on camera who they thought should be the starting quarterback, and the answer was unanimous across the board. Shadur, Shadur, Shadur. Every single one of them. Not Watson. Not Gabriel, not Pickett. Shedeur Sanders, the fifth-round pick, the rookie contract quarterback, the kid who was supposed to need time and development and a year of sitting behind the veteran. The fan base skipped right past all of that and went straight to "we want this guy leading our team out of the tunnel on opening day." And for the people who think fan opinion does not matter in these decisions, I respectfully disagree. Fan engagement drives everything in professional sports. It drives ticket sales, it drives merchandise revenue, it drives television ratings, and it drives the overall energy around a franchise. When your youngest, most passionate, most emotionally invested fans are already chanting for a specific quarterback, that is not just noise. That is a signal. That is your future customer base telling you who they want to build around for the next decade. And it is not just the fans in the stands making noise about this. Pat McAfee, who runs arguably the single biggest platform in all of sports media right now, went on his own show and flat out said that ever since Shadur started getting real reps, the entire vibe around the Browns franchise changed for the better. McAfee did not play both sides. He did not hedge. He looked into his camera and essentially campaigned for a rookie quarterback over a guy making franchise-altering money. When a media personality with that kind of reach and that kind of influence puts his name behind a take like that, the ripple effect goes all the way through the league. Front offices pay attention to that. Ownership groups pay attention to that. And you better believe the players in that locker room are paying attention to it too. This is the part where I need to remind you that here at Gridiron Ground, we do not just tell you what happened. We tell you what it means and why it matters. And if you are not subscribed yet, you are missing the full picture on every single story like this. Hit that subscribe button right now because this Browns quarterback battle is going to produce headlines every single day for the next several weeks, and this is where you want to be when those headlines drop. The national media momentum is building in one direction. The fan base is chanting one name. The coaching staff just told you on camera that performance decides everything. And on day one of camp, one quarterback made plays while the other one made mistakes. Every single arrow is pointing the same way. And if the Browns front office tries to fight against that momentum because of a contract, because of politics, because of anything other than what is happening between the lines, they are going to face a backlash from their own people that makes every previous Cleveland quarterback controversy look like a friendly disagreement. The preseason is where all of this comes to a head, and what Monken said about those games should have every single person watching this competition circling dates on their calendar right now. Todd Monken did not leave any mystery about what is coming next. He told reporters at that press conference that the starters are going to play in the first preseason game. He said he will not back himself into a corner, but he made it clear that his guys, the ones who are competing for the starting job, are going to be on that field when the lights come on and the hits are real. That means Shedeur Sanders is going to get preseason snaps with the first-team offense against a live defense in front of a national audience. And if you have been paying attention to everything I have laid out in this video, you already know why that is the single most important development in this entire competition. Training camp is valuable. Practice reps matter. But there is nothing in football that compares to live game action. That is where you find out who a quarterback really is. That is where the pressure goes from simulated to real, where the pass rush is not pulling up at the last second, where the defensive backs are not giving cushion because they are protecting a teammate. That is football, real football. And if Shadur goes out there and performs the way he performed on day one of camp, if he makes those same clean throws and those same decisive reads against a real defense in a real stadium with real consequences, this competition is over. There will be nothing left for anyone to debate. The tape will speak, the stats will speak, and Todd Monken will have all the evidence he needs to make the call that the fan base, the national media, and probably half the locker room already wants him to make. And on the other side of that equation, Watson is walking into those preseason games with everything to lose and almost nothing to gain. If he plays well, people will say he was supposed to play well because he is the veteran with the massive contract. If he plays poorly, if he throws another interception, if he looks anything less than sharp against a preseason defense, the walls close in even further. The margin for error on Watson's side of this competition is razor thin right now and getting thinner by the day. Every rep from this point forward is elimination level pressure for a quarterback who has not consistently performed at a high level in a very long time. Monken confirmed the formula. He confirmed the timeline. He confirmed that the starters will play. And he confirmed that the performance decides everything. The preseason game against Chicago is going to be appointment television for every Browns fan, every NFL fan, and every single person who has been watching this quarterback battle unfold since the draft. Shedeur Sanders has been waiting his entire life for a stage like this, and based on everything we have seen so far, he is not going to waste the opportunity. The only question left is whether the Browns organization is brave enough to trust what their own eyes are about to show them. So let me bring this all together for you. Day one of Cleveland Browns training camp gave us everything we needed to see. Watson threw an interception into the hands of Denzel Ward. Shadur connected with Denzel Boston and moved the ball like a quarterback who already knows this offense is his. Todd Monken stood at the podium and told the world that performance decides the starter, not contracts, not history, not front office politics. He laid out the exact formula for tracking when one quarterback pulls ahead in the rep distribution. Coach Prime showed up, sat quietly in the top row, and let his son own the moment without stealing a single second of the spotlight. The fans are chanting one name. The national media is pushing one narrative. And the field, the only thing that actually matters in this sport, is already telling the story. This competition might still be officially open, but the opening chapter belongs to Shedeur Sanders, and right now, nobody else is even close to writing a better one. This is Gridiron ground. If this video opened your eyes to something you did not see before, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because this story is just getting started, and you are going to want to be here for every single chapter that comes next.
You just pick up alternating at this point?
Yeah, nothing's really changed. We anticipate alternating. First of all 4 quarterbacks are going to compete. They all won't get equal reps. Obviously, we will alternate just like we did in the spring with Deshaun and Shadur with the ones.
Do you have a timeline on when you want to name a quarterback one, and how do you plan on giving up reps for the preseason game?
The easiest way for me to say that, and it still won't stop you from asking, not you particularly, but everybody in general, is the first game. And we're going to have a starter the first game, right? I mean, ultimately, I'm not going to decide who the starter is. They decide by their play. Their play decides who the starter is. I don't have any preconceived notions of how they played in the past or how they're going to play. I only can, with my eyes, judge. And guys got to play well around them. I think we've shored up some things up front. We've added some weapons on the perimeter, so I think that's going to help.